Hi, good morning. This is Sakshi. Today is 28 April and I am here with today's The Hindu newspaper. So, before starting, just a small request. Can you please ignore the background noises in case that noise gets really irritating? Even I am done with that. So, just a small request. Okay, let's start reading the newspaper. First page is just filled with Pahalgam news, which is not important for us. Mm, Moving forward, okay, this news item is important. You should know who Dalai Lama is. Dalai Lama is basically a spiritual figure, spiritual leader in Buddhism. Okay, for example, Pope, you know, right? We have discussed it. Pope is spiritual leader in Christianity. In the same manner, Dalai Lama is spiritual leader in Buddhism. So Dalai Lama from Tibet, you should remember these dates, that in 1950, no, let's start from the very beginning. Okay, so Tibet, you know Tibet, right? This is our India and here we have Tibet. Okay, so in Tibet there was this dynasty known as King dynasty. It ruled from 1720 to 1912. So in 1913, what happened was, at that time there was this Dalai Lama. He was 13th Dalai Lama. So 13th Dalai Lama in 1913 declared that Tibet is now independent. Okay, no more dynasties or nothing. No one is ruling Tibet. We are independent. Okay, just remember that it was 13th Dalai Lama. The one we are going to talk about right now, he is 14th Dalai Lama. Okay, so basically this 13th Dalai Lama is his predecessor. Moving forward, so you saw that in 1913 Tibet was declared independent. What happened in 1950 was that China invaded Tibet. We all know this habit of China, where it invades areas and it is just so obsessed with owning every piece of land in the world. So this is the thing that happened. China invaded Tibet, and in 1959, finally, the 14th Dalai Lama at that time, he fled to India. He came to India as a refugee. Okay, we kept him and all his followers, family members, everything. So that happened. And since then, since 1959, Dalai Lama has been in India. Okay, so when Dalai Lama came to India, this 14th Dalai Lama, he was pretty young. Now he is going to turn 90 in upcoming 2 or 3 months. He will be turning 90. So naturally there is a need to choose a successor. Okay, that is 15th Dalai Lama. So here, this person, he says his name is Penpa Sering. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but his name is Penpa Sering. He said that Dalai Lama is likely to choose a spiritual successor on his 90th birthday, which is in July. So there is this statement. We will cover it thoroughly in the month of July when he finally chooses a successor. But till then, you should know all these points. These are important. Okay, so background noise must be getting louder. I'm sorry. Okay, so this first editorial, it is of no use. You can surely skip this. First of all, this is political, and second, it's about West. It's not related to us. So please skip that. This editorial is pretty important. Okay, this is talking about AI, of course. just explains some basic principles related to AI, but there are catches in this article. For example, you can see this India AI mission, right? So let me tell you, this is a mission going on, or this is a scheme by Indian government. Okay, it was launched in 2024, just last year. So yes, and you should know its focus. Basically, this scheme, India AI mission, this is focused on developing India's AI infrastructure. Okay, so that's an important scheme, especially for CLAT. Because let me remind you again that in last year, that is CLAT 2025, in the first sample paper, or maybe you can say the only sample paper that we got, there were a ton of questions related to schemes. So this becomes very, very important. Then comes this point dealing with AI Action Summit, which was held in Paris just a few months back. So this AI Action Summit, as the name suggests, it deals with AI. But this was not the first summit dealing with AI. It was third of its kind. The first one was in, very important, let's highlight it. First one took place in Bletchley Park, that is in UK. The first AI Action Summit took place in Bletchley Park, UK in 2023. The second took place in Seoul in 2024, Seoul, South Korea. So that's pretty important. Keep that in mind, please. Okay, next. Okay, let's understand a basic principle related to AI. You know, right, that AI needs a huge volume of electricity to work, to function. So if we expand AI, it would result in more and more demand for electricity, right? More demand will lead to more price, right? Increase in price, high prices. And then when the prices will be high, people will start looking forward to renewable energy sources, okay, non-conventional energy sources like solar power or hydropower, nuclear energy, things like that. People will start looking forward to them, and this can be a way we switch into cleaner energy resources. So AI is very important for us, even when we talk about environment. Okay, that is what this article basically talks about. And there is another GK, static GK point, which is India has its net zero target for 2070. Well, most of the countries worldwide have this target for 2050, but India has taken the year of 2070. So I have dealt with this in detail in my environment video. If you want, you can watch that, just a 30 minutes video, that is enough if you want to deal with the environment genre of static GK. Moving forward, this article, this is not about India, but this is a legal article and can be surely given in your legal passage, can be given as a legal passage in your CLAT exam, anything like that. So let's decode it. This is talking about a recent Supreme Court judgment, okay, of UK, United Kingdom, where Supreme Court has passed a ruling about Britain's Equality Act. There is Equality Act 2010 in Britain, and this judgment is in relation to that. What Supreme Court has ruled is that only biological women, okay, and not trans women, meet the definition of women under this particular act. So you know that every act has a section that deals with definitions, okay, everything. So Supreme Court has ruled that as per the act, definition of women is only and only fit for biological women, not people who are trans women. Okay, so this is what Supreme Court of United Kingdom has ruled. Even if you are a trans woman, you have undergone a gender reassignment or a gender recognition certificate. You have a gender recognition certificate which speaks that you are a woman, but still you will not have the right to be treated as a woman under this particular article as per the UK's Supreme Court's judgment. Now about this bill, about this act actually. This act is a anti-discrimination act in workplaces and things like that. So yes, this one is an important act, and taking away the rights of trans women who even have the certificates, gender certificates, is a little controversial. So you must know about this, and I told you about this. Moving forward, this article is really important, and I think most of my time is going to discuss most of the time I'm going to discuss this in today's video. So let's start. This article deals with a new topic that I have not discussed on my channel till now. This is dealing with arbitration. First of all, you must know what an arbitration is. You know, court hearing, right? In high courts or in Supreme Court or in district courts, whatever, you see a judge, right? Advocates of the concerned parties, and the case is being heard by the judge. Similarly, in arbitration is generally in cases where a dispute has been arised in, for example, trade or trade, commerce, international disputes. Okay, so if there is a dispute, arbitration can take place. Arbitration is usually chosen over the normal court hearing because we all know, let's be honest, court hearing takes years to finally give a product, to finally give a judgment. It takes years for a judge to do that. So most of the trade deals, they have this clause that deals with arbitration, that in case any dispute arises, any party can go for arbitration. So in arbitration, there is a third party who is neutral, who has no connection to either of the parties, that is made a judge. And mind you, in arbitration, that third party, that neutral party, is not called a judge. He or she is known as arbitrator. Okay, so that third party, that neutral party, makes a decision which is binding on both of the parties, and that decision is known as arbitral award. So in normal court hearing, it is known as a judgment, and in arbitration it is known as a arbitral award. Okay, so now I think I have made that clear. Let's move on to the editorial. First of all, this part explains about the significance of arbitration. We all are seeing that there is an increase in domestic and cross-border commerce, trade, right? So there are more commercial disputes today than it was a few decades ago. And since our Indian court legislation, Indian courts are already overburdened and they're not time efficient, so there is a growing importance of arbitration, right? Then this part deals with importance of arbitrators. Okay, the one who actually passes the decision in an arbitration proceeding is known as arbitrator. I told you that. Okay, so here what the writer is saying is that arbitrators have huge role in arbitration proceedings, and the legitimacy, the credibility of Indian arbitration is dependent on two things. First, how the proceedings are being conducted, and second, the quality of arbitral awards, that is the quality of the judgment. And in both the things, we know that arbitrators play an important role, hence they are pretty important. Here, writer arises a question that why Indian arbitrators are not appointed in international disputes. For example, a commerce dispute between, let's say, China and what, Afghanistan. Just example. So let's assume that there is a trade dispute between China and Afghanistan. Why are Indian arbitrators not appointed in such kind of international disputes where India is not a party? Why can't it be? Because that is a fact that Indian arbitrators are mostly excluded from such kind of proceedings. Why? What is the reason? What is the reason for such inclusion? Because there is this mentality in India, there is this well established system in India where we appoint former high court or supreme court judges at arbitrators. Okay, we, like the writer agrees that okay, they are professionals in their fields, they are good with court proceedings, but things are different in arbitration, right? And his point is evident from the fact that such arbitrators who are former Supreme Court or High Court judges, they give very lengthy arbitral proceedings. Like for example, if an arbitrator is taking months to give a award, arbitral award, then what's the point of skipping the court thing and doing this arbitration thing? What is the point if you're doing the same thing? And plus, um, it is evident that their awards, that is their judgments in case of arbitration, their judgments are poorly reasoned. Okay, there is this assumption in India that professionals who have had the legal training, the judicial training, who have had the judicial experience, they do not require any further capacity building if they want to become a arbitrator. This assumption needs to be corrected, as the writer says. What is the correction that the writer is talking about? Writer basically says that arbitration and court proceedings are two different things, and even if a person who is experienced in court proceedings is to be appointed as an arbitrator, that person needs further capacity building. These are two different things, and the person needs to behave differently, the person needs to think differently, the person needs to function differently. They have to um, give the arbitration award as soon as possible, since trade and commerce don't wait for too long. And yes, things like that. Writer says that there is a difference between writing a judgment and drafting an arbitral award. So of course the writer is saying that he has concluded his point. His first point is that arbitrators in India need to be diversified. India needs to include such candidates who are specialized in arbitration, right? Who have been trained in this particular field. So, writer demands that. And the second point which he is making is that no matter whoever is being appointed as an arbitrator, he or she must go through a rigorous training. They must have time to develop their capacity in field of arbitration. So this is the point the writer was saying, and arbitration is a very important topic from the perspective of legal section in CLAT examination. So please don't underestimate that. Moving forward, we have an article about Trump and about bonds. Let's skip Trump because, of course, a political figure, and let's move forward to bond. Basically, the article here is talking about how Trump has called Jerome Powell, who is the chairman of Federal Reserve, that is the Central Bank of America. He has called him a loser because he is not lowering interest rates. So basically, Donald Trump is playing with financial architecture of his country. He does not want central bank to be independent. Yes, that's the problem. But this is not concerned with your examination. These are just some economic terms, and I might even use Hindi in explaining you if I think that I cannot possibly explain you in English that easily. So let's do this. The first term is bond. You must know this is a financial instrument which promises a fixed amount, suppose 100 rupees, okay, and this fixed amount is given to the holder, the one who has the bond. This fixed amount is given to the holder at the end of a certain time period, for example 1 year. Just assume that you are the holder, okay, and I am giving you this bond, and I am promising you that you will be given 100 rupees at the end of 1 year. Just keep this bond. But this bond is not free, of course, like any other thing. You need to buy this bond. So basically, the amount that you earn at the end of that time period, that is known as face value. Your earning is known as face value, and when I'm selling this bond to you, I will charge you less than this face value. For example, I am selling you a bond for 90 rupees, okay, and I'm saying that this bond will give you 100 rupees at the end of 1 year, okay. So you can buy this bond for 90 rupees, you can keep this bond for 1 year, and after 1 year this will become 100. So this is how a bond works, okay. Next term is equity. You know, equity or shares that we buy. So basically, equity is also a financial instrument, but it promises unlimited gains or losses. It's up to you, right? If you buy stocks of a particular company, you can gain or even you can lose. There are both possibilities. So now I hope you can understand the difference between this bond and equity. These are two different things. Now this is making a very important economic, this is talking about very important economic principle. I should discuss this, that for example, if I gave you that 100 rupees bond today, you bought it for 90 rupees from me, Okay, so you spent 90 rupees buying that bond today, and that bond is after 1 year, right? So suppose that after 1 year inflation is at its highest, things are very very, like, what to say, things are very very expensive. So now even if you get that 100 rupees, will you be able to spend that particular amount in the way you could have done earlier, right? अब समझो, मैंने तुमने अभी 90 रुपये इन्वेस्ट किए ये बॉन्ड ख़रीदने में, 1 साल बाद महंगाई बहुत बढ़ गई है, तो अब ये पैसे तुम्हारे लिए उतने कीमती नहीं हैं क्योंकि अब चीज़ें महंगी हैं. यू नीड मोर मनी टू बाय थिंग्स टुडे, right? So this is how inflation plays with these kind of financial instruments. So even if you gain this 10 rupees, this 10 rupees gain that you are having, this will be of no use if there is inflation in that area. So that was that. You should read this article. This is just skip the political elements in it. Okay, read all the economic things. Next is this news item that Philippines and US are testing air defenses as China seizes reef. So there is nothing in relation to this article that you must remember, since this deals with Philippines and US. But there is a point that you must remember in relation to India and Philippines. So you must know the South China Sea conflict that is going on. Okay, and if you don't, go search for it on Wikipedia and read. Okay, so now India and Philippines. Last year what happened was that India delivered a first stock, you must say, of this BrahMos missile. This BrahMos missile in itself is very very hot topic. So go read about this BrahMos missile, go read about this conflict going on. Okay, basically this missile is a supersonic missile made by India and Russia in partnership. This Brah stands for Brahmaputra river, right? So go read about it, that's very very important. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.